Cleopatra is a name that is on everyone's lips. This woman is associated with greatness, power, and, of course, beauty. Cleopatra's true power lay in her ability to manipulate the situation and the people around her. In history, there is a famous legend about how Cleopatra won the heart of the most powerful man of the time, Julius Caesar. But here's the curious thing. Caesar wasn't the only man she fought for. She knew how to use every political opportunity to strengthen her position and ensure that Egypt had a powerful role on the world stage. Importantly, she was intelligent and calculating. Despite all the rumors about her beauty, Cleopatra, according to historians, was not an outstanding beauty. Even the sculptures and coins depicting her support this opinion. Cleopatra's appearance was far from the ideal accepted in antiquity, but her ability to manipulate the political situation was truly outstanding. She understood how to use her resources to hold power and knew how to influence the men with whom she built strategic alliances. In addition to this, Cleopatra was a truly outstanding diplomat. She spoke several languages and was one of the few rulers of the time who was able to learn Egyptian. This was crucial, as she was the last ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which came from Macedonia, and many of her predecessors were not keen to learn the language of the locals. But Cleopatra took a step that strengthened her bond with the people and showed that she was not just an outsider conqueror, but genuinely interested in the fate of her country. Unlike many monarchs of the time, Cleopatra did not hide from the people in palaces, but actively participated in the life of Egypt. She traveled around the country, communicated with pharaohs, officials, and even with those who were in opposition. In this way, she was able to create an image of a leader who could be trusted and who spoke to the people in their language. When Cleopatra first met Julius Caesar, she was just a young woman seeking to regain power in Egypt. She found herself in a very difficult position. She was not the sole heir to the throne of Egypt. Her brother, Ptolemy XIII, also had ambitions to rule. Rome, in turn, was in the process of consolidating its power in the Mediterranean. And in order to keep Egypt under control, she needed to find an ally in the person of Rome. This is where Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful men in Rome, who at the time was involved in a civil war with Pompey, comes in. Cleopatra realized that his support was a chance to regain her power, and she was willing to do anything to achieve this. Cleopatra entered the Roman court as Julius Caesar's mistress, but she was not his only woman. Despite this, it was this union that allowed her to regain the throne in Egypt. After all, thanks to Caesar, she was able to defeat her brother and become a full-fledged ruler. Caesar, in turn, saw in Cleopatra not only a woman, but also a valuable ally, able to strengthen his influence in Egypt. But this was not just an ordinary meeting of the two politicians. Cleopatra knew that she needed to demonstrate her determination and cunning to get Caesar to not only support her, but to fall in love with her. Cleopatra could have chosen another ally, but it was Caesar she chose. This decision may have been the most important of her life, but her alliance with Caesar was not just the beginning of her reign. A few years later, his death led to new political maneuvers that changed her destiny again. When Cleopatra met Mark Antony, her life and fate once again became the subject of world politics. Mark Antony was one of the most powerful men in the Roman Empire. He was not only a military leader, but also a political ally. When he met Cleopatra, both realized that their alliance could be a decisive factor in the struggle for power. Cleopatra, who had lost her throne more than once and was struggling for her power in Egypt, saw in Antony a powerful partner who could help her retain her crown and restore Egypt to its former glory. Their relationship sparked one of the most famous conflicts in history. Cleopatra and Mark Antony began to openly oppose Octavian, the future emperor of Rome. This confrontation became the basis for the famous Battle of Actium in 31 BC. When Octavian's troops were victorious, it effectively ended Cleopatra and Antony's attempts to retain power. But was it just a political move? Or was there real passion between them after all? Many historians believe that their union was not only political, but also personal. In times of antiquity, such alliances were commonplace, but with Cleopatra and Antony, things were a little different. Their relationship involved not only diplomatic deals, but also personal meetings, flamboyant gestures, and traveling together. As a token of her love, Cleopatra bore Mark Antony 3 children. These children, 2 boys and a girl, became important figures in both Egyptian and Roman history. One of them, Alexander Helios, was even a contender for the throne of Rome. However, the fate of these children was tragic. After Antony's defeat, they were stripped of everything and ended up in Rome under the control of Octavian. Cleopatra was certainly not only a symbol of beauty, but also a master diplomat. Despite her personal connections with powerful men such as Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, her main strength was her ability to manipulate the political situation. She was well aware that in a world ruled by ambition and armies, mere attractiveness does not solve everything. To maintain power in Egypt, she had to become a master of strategic thinking, and she achieved this more than anyone else. Equally important was her approach to alliance building. When Rome began to lose interest in Egypt, Cleopatra was able to take her relationship with it to the next level while maintaining her independence. She didn't just marry or do joint military campaigns with the Romans. She used these alliances as a way to show her power. For example, her wedding to Mark Antony was not an ordinary event, but a symbol of the union of 2 great powers. This move strengthened her position on the international stage and allowed Egypt to maintain its influence in the region. In addition, Cleopatra became one of the first rulers to actively use military alliances to not only protect her borders, but also to control key territories. With her help, Egypt became a powerful political player, and the queen herself demonstrated how important it was to be flexible and anticipate the course of events. She used the Romans not only to defend Egypt, but also to expand her territorial claims. Her diplomacy was not only skillful maneuvering between political and personal interests. She carefully chose with whom to make alliances and never left her goals unattended. Cleopatra didn't just participate in politics, she created it. However, not all of her maneuvers were successful. Eventually, a confrontation with Octavian led to her downfall. There is a popular version that Cleopatra committed suicide by being bitten by a poisonous snake, which she supposedly hid in a fruit basket. This was depicted in Roman works of art and told even by ancient historians. However, many modern researchers doubt this version. First, snakes cannot be used so easily. Their venom does not always kill immediately, and the very death from a snake bite in this context seems too theatrical. Plenty of historians believe that Cleopatra could have been killed on the orders of Octavian, a Roman emperor who was her enemy and opposed her in a political conflict. After all, after Cleopatra and Antony's defeat at the Battle of Actium, she and her son could be seen as a threat to Rome, and Octavian probably decided to eliminate Cleopatra for good. But even if she did not commit suicide by means of a snake, the rumors of her death are still mystical. Some sources mention that she was not alone at the last moment of her life. It is said that her faithful servant Dionysus left with her, who may have also committed suicide. This fact adds even more murkiness around her death and makes one wonder how much her death was related to political struggles and personal tragedies. Cleopatra was known for her cunning and manipulative skills, and so questions about her death will always be controversial and perplexing. After all, if her death was the result of a conspiracy, then perhaps it was the final act of her political game. What do you think? Suicide or an ingenious plot to strip her of her power? Write in the comments.